Agent Alber is an enforcement agent with the Kansas Racing and Gaming Commission, an instructor, and a leading investigator specializing in cryptocurrency related crime. But that description only scratches the surface of what he does. Agent Alber is on the front lines fighting scams. He works with the scam baiter community, law enforcement, and his contacts around the world to stop scams and catch the people behind them. On his USCryptoCop YouTube channel, he takes viewers behind the scenes, sharing scam prevention advice, real investigations, and success stories where scammers didn't get away with it. Today, we're going to talk about what he's seeing in the field, how these scams operate, and what we could all do to protect ourselves better from scammers. Agent Albert, thank you for taking the time to speak with us today. How are you?
Brother, I'm better than I deserve, man, and it's an absolute pleasure to be here with you today. Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, it's always good to have you. We have some good conversations, and I love what you're doing out there. And what's great about your YouTube channel, what you're doing is we're actually seeing some success stories on your end, and we'll definitely get into those during this interview here. But maybe to start out, let's start a little about your background. Tell us about your career in law enforcement and what led you to investigating scams and cryptocurrency related crimes.
Well, my career began in 1988 at a small county sheriff's office, and then eventually led me to being a chief of police of a community for 18 years. And I retired from that position and ended up at the Kansas Racing and Gaming Commission, the agency I'm at now. So, and you'd asked about how I got into crypto. Well, through the Kansas Racing and Gaming Commission, when the Kansas State Attorney General started to stand up a crypto task force, being a state agency, we were a member, and they put out an agency-wide email for people who were interested in taking the training. I took advantage of that, and then it created a passion, and here I am today.
Wow. I imagine you're seeing a lot in the cryptocurrency crime over there, especially over the years. It's definitely increased and become more common.
You know, I got into crypto investigations with that, and at the same time, I was investigating some money laundering cases that then led to illicit massage parlors
Mm.
across the country. And then that led to that money being transferred from the United States to Macau via crypto. So those two things came together and led me into the crypto realm. And crypto has been a fantastic vehicle that has been exploited by scammers, um, just like anything else criminals touch. They don't invent technology, they don't bring anything to the table, they just exploit.
Yeah, one of the things we've noticed over the years that we've been dealing with scams and educating the public is that scammers are always adapting the latest technology. A lot of times they're adapting it before businesses have even fully adapted it. You know, right now they're using AI to make their scams more believable, and that's a huge problem.
As AI continues to evolve, it's making it even more difficult to detect.
Yeah, so it's just an example of how important it is to stay up to date with what's going on out there with technology and how cryptocurrency came on the scene, and because scammers are always the first to adapt it. Something that we have in common, well, a lot actually, but over here at ScamAware 101 and USCryptoCop, we both focus heavily on educating the public about scam awareness and fraud prevention. But from your perspective, why is scam awareness and prevention so important today, and what should people need to understand about the growing threat these scams pose?
I think that the biggest problem is as more people are involved in social media or connected via social media, it's made contact with people easier
Mhm.
and mass groups of people easier. So you have to be more aware because when you, a few years ago, before you had your social media accounts, I mean, you just had contact with your local inner circle. But now you have contact with people across the globe. And that, of course, makes things more difficult. So, on top of being a law enforcement officer, I'm also a retired from the military. And in the military, we called it hardening the target. And we really need to harden the target because right now the public is a very open and easy target. So, through education, just like education against any crime, I think that we really need education is going to be the key. A lot of people are new to different social media platforms and contact that way. So, just educating that Those old scams we used to get in the mail. The Nigerian prince uh, has inherited some money, but he needs my help to get it. That same scam is out there, but it's no longer coming in your mailbox in a letter. It's coming via text messages or emails or contact with people on the internet. And it's just made it, not only has it made it exposed you to more people, but it's also made the speed of those crimes much faster, much more rapid. I'm not responding to that letter with an envelope and a letter back to that person. I'm literally typing it on the internet or, email or text. So it's happening instantly.
Yeah, and you know what? That's another example about how the scammers they adapt to the latest technology. Social media comes out; it's a new way for them to reach new potential victims, and they jump right on it. You know?
Yeah, yeah, they are quick to adopt new technology because what do they have to lose if it doesn't work right?
Hmm.
Whereas if you're a business, you got to beta test things and there's all sorts of hoops you have to jump through and different committees that have to approve it. But if you're a criminal, it's other people's money.
Yeah, and on social media, especially one of the things we warn on our weekly live stream is we'll share some social media scams. We pick on Facebook a little bit, but really they're on all social media at this point.
Sure.
And what I find interesting is a lot of long-term deception type scams start on social media, meaning the romance scams where they build up your trust for a couple weeks. The pig butchering scams, they build up your trust before they even mention an investment at first.
Absolutely.
And they something as innocent as a stranger messaging you on social media or requesting a friend request in a comment could lead to your life savings being taken. It's really it's amazing how it could escalate.
Yes. And just so it's my belief and your belief as well that if we just educate people to be aware of these things, that hopefully will harden that target, will make people more aware, and by golly, you're less likely to be the victim of that scam.
Right.
So,
Yeah. And one of the things that about today's modern scams, and another reason why scam awareness and prevention is so important, I would think, is because after someone gets scammed, they lose that money. It's very hard to recover, right? Maybe you could talk
yes,
a little bit about the tactics that these scammers use to make it so hard to recover these funds and recuperate losses.
I just put out a video this morning on, in my videos, I'm always saying pause, verify, then act. In law enforcement, we have an old adage is that believe half of what you see and nothing you hear. Um,
Mm,
and so it's the same way with scammers, always verify what you're being told. Trust but verify, I think is the old term. And so just verify what you're being told. And a lot of these scams, the scammer's biggest weapon, at least in the scams that I've investigated, has been urgency,
mm.
absolute urgency. Because once you're in that mode of, oh my gosh, I got to get something done right now, your logical brain shuts off. And now you're just responding to whatever emergency the scammer has created. You haven't verified anything. You're just reacting to the truth that the scammer has told you. So if you pause, verify, and then act, that's going to slow the pace of things down. Then you're probably going to realize that, hey, this is not an emergency. I don't have to make any decision right this minute. I mean, there is no law enforcement agency that will call you and say, you got to pay this warrant or you're going to get arrested right now. Um, they probably won't call you at all, but you'll just get a knock on your door, but or arrested when you get a speeding ticket. But um, it's always in a sense of urgency. It has to be done now. And scammers are master manipulators. They can they know exactly what buttons to push to get people to move. It's amazing, and they're very skilled at what they do. It's amazing.
Yeah, they do this all day long. I mean, they know any kind of objection someone could have used on the phone with them. They've already heard it before. They already have answers ready to go and excuses and stories to convince victims, that they're legit. Um, you know, s- some of the tactics we hear about a lot with how they're able to trick their victims. And by the way, we believe that anybody could get scammed. Really, like it doesn't matter how smart you think you are.
Absolutely.
right? It doesn't matter your age. There's this misconception that only the older folks are getting scammed. Younger folks actually get scammed more. They just lose less because they have less saved up. It's more
Yes,
devastating to the
exactly.
older folks, but the last numbers I saw, the younger folks actually fall for them more. But so really anybody could be fooled by these scammers. Anybody could fall victim to a scam, and they use certain tactics, right? You recently did a video about how caller ID can't be trusted, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
Caller ID is only telling you what your phone's been sent. It doesn't verify the phone number that it's coming from. In law enforcement, we actually spoof numbers all the time. I mean, if you are a bad guy, you're not going to answer your cell phone call from the police department, so we actually spoof calls all the time to get the bad guy to answer. So,
Mhm.
yeah, it's the phone carrier is only telling you what they're told the phone number is, not what the phone number actually is.
And sadly, when we review the scam reports from victims, a lot of times they'll say the reason they fell for the scam was because the caller ID said it was their bank. So even though they were being told something that sounded strange, they thought, well, it must be a bank because the caller ID says it's the bank. So that's a
Exactly.
very common misconception. I think that people end up falling for these scams. They don't realize you can't trust caller ID, right?
Absolutely.
And also, there's a fake
Absolutely.
paperwork aspect, right? Where
Oh,
there, I think you did a video recently also about not trusting IDs or fake IDs, right?
I have a friend of mine who is, well, this friend of mine's a doctor, and he received a message. I can't remember at this point whether it was email. I think it was email, um, that said his social security number has been compromised and that there was illegal activity happening with his social security number, and it could potentially be putting his business at risk, not only him, but his business. Well, that, of course, concerned him greatly. So, uh, he says, well, can you send me more information? They sent credentials, said they were investigators from the FTC, and here's a copy of my credentials. And yeah, actually talked him out of about $25,000. Sent a check,
Mm,
by the way. No crypto involved in that one. Sent a check
wow.
to their attorney, to the attorney that was handling that. And so it's being scammed does not mean you're stupid. It actually means you're probably a very caring person, um, on a lot of these scams, and you're just trying to help somebody out or take care of problems. And yeah, it's horribly devastating, horribly. So ID is, you know, if you have a question as to whether an agency is contacting you, for Pete's sakes, pause, verify, then act. Pause, verify, reach out to the agency that's contacting you with a no phone number that you can verify. If it's the local sheriff's office or police department, hang up and then call the police department and say, hey, I just received a call from officer so and so. Does this person really exist there? And sometimes they'll say yes, because the scammers are smart enough to scour the police department's website and just pick a name.
Mm,
And you'll say, okay, well, is this individual in? Because they just called me and said I have a warrant for my arrest. If
mm.
you just take the time, if it really is that officer, they're not going to be mad at you at all. They would much rather put up with that and answer a few questions than get into a huge months long investigation. So if you can stop it right away, that's fantastic. If it takes you a few extra minutes to verify who I am, I don't mind one bit. But it's probably not me calling.
Yeah, and that goes for when we say verify, we mean stop engaging with whoever called you. Hang up the phone, right? If it was a text message or an email that has links, don't click the links. If they say call this number, don't call the number, right? If it says press one, don't press one. Cut off all engagement, all communication with the unsolicited contact. And when we say verify, we mean go look up the official contact information or check one of your accounts directly. But you actually have to cut that unsolicited contact off, hang up, and then verify through official channels. None of this because they'll try to get you to
Absolutely.
stay on the phone, or they'll say, sure, you could call this number to verify, but it's actually calling another scammer, right? So you have to really pause, like you said, cut off the communication, and then verify through official channels. You know, right?
What I found, and this is very general, but what I found is that they use panic and fear so much as the weapon, as the vehicle to manipulate your actions, or encourage you to act. Um, that if you just pause, if you take the fear out of that, then the whole scam unravels instantly. It's yeah, just instantly.
Mhm.
So yeah, if anybody calls you and tells you you have to act now, there's a good chance you're dealing with a scammer.
Yeah. And then, the other thing to keep in mind too about how they trick us is that one of the ways they are so convincing is they'll know things about us a lot of times. They'll know what city we're in or what county we're in. They might even know a part of our bank account number or social security number, especially medical information. There's a lot of Medicare scams going around now where they call you up and try to steal your Medicare information to file false claims, but they'll know your doctors, they'll know your pharmacies, they'll show it on your caller ID. So they know who to impersonate. When they're impersonating your bank, sometimes they'll know what bank you use and what bank to actually impersonate too. So you can't be tricked by what they know about you as well.
That's true. And I've got two stories that kind of go along with that. One is that scammers, a lot of the scammers are huge industrial level scam operations, massive scam operations to the tune of over 10,000 people working in these facilities to conduct scams. And those are mainly the scams you're seeing come out of Southeast Asia, Myanmar, Thailand, Cambodia, some in Dubai. Huge criminal operations that's what they do to make money is scam operations. So they buy data from data, they receive data from data breaches. They purchase data all the time on the dark web. Um, because they're in that business, they have access to a lot of data and have a lot of money. Now, your one-offs in Nigeria and Cameroon and places like that are less sophisticated scam operations, but still plenty of money. And it's interesting. I was at the International Association of Financial Crimes Investigators conference here in the Kansas City metro area, and I'm sitting, and Aaron West from Operation Shamrock is giving a presentation on pig butchering. Now, everybody in this conference is an investigator of some type. And I suddenly get a text that says, "Hey, want to go golfing?" Now, what the person texting me didn't know was that we were under severe thunderstorm warnings and it was raining cats and dogs. And it doesn't take much to look at me and say, he's probably not a golfer. Now, I love to go golfing. Just nobody wants to go with me because I'm really the guy that should probably be driving the cart, not swinging the club. So, um, me being in a room full of investigators said, sure, where you want to go. And right at that time, Erin West in her presentation says, anybody, anytime, anywhere can be the victim of a financial crime. And of course, I raised my hand, which was a very odd place in the conference or in the presentation to raise your hand. And she says, yes, Agent Alber. And I said, yeah, just like a gaming agent in the middle of a conference on pig butchering, I got one on the hook right now. So we played with that individual a little bit, but it was interesting to see the progress
Mm.
because the whole progress of the conversation went, they were obviously asking me probing questions as to what country I was in, because this is obviously obvious with this particular scam was a mass operation where they're sending out thousands of text messages. So they weren't even sure what country they'd hit. Then when they determined what country they hit, they wanted to know my name. And now they're cross-referencing on Google my name and my phone number to try to narrow down who they're talking to. And it's very obvious in the progression of the conversation that they're using just open source tools like Google to take my phone number, cross-reference it with the country, cross-reference it with whatever name I gave them to make the conversation more personal. And to make a long story short, before we cut this conversation off, that individual sent me a picture of her. And five other investigators from about four different states had had the same picture used in scams that they'd investigated. So it's what they do. They're remarkable at what they do, and the effort that they go through to rope you into that scam. I mean, they were obviously doing open source intel work on me as we're having that text conversation back and forth.
And if you had continued having the conversation, what type of scam would it have evolved in? A pig butchering scam? Or where did it look like it was going towards?
It looked like it was going into a pig butchering scam,
Mm.
is what it looked like. And I just happened to be sitting in a presentation of pig butchering, which was kind of cool. So, but yeah, it's amazing to see that process. Now, I have to add as a caveat, I used to play with these people a lot until I learned that, for instance, in the scam compounds in Cambodia and Myanmar, KK Park happens to be one of those. Google it. It's an interesting place. And that was a casino established in Myanmar, right on the Thailand border, during COVID, where Chinese organized crime came in and established a casino. Um, there is estimated now to be over 10,000 people in that facility alone that have been human trafficked to conduct these scams for 12 to 16 hours a day. And if they don't meet their quota, they're tortured, they're sometimes killed. It's unbelievable. So I don't mess with the scammers anymore, realizing that there is a good possibility that the person that is sending this out is possibly been human trafficked, and I don't want to cause more suffering from them. I like taking up their time because they're not scamming somebody else. However, um, there are some second order and third order effects to that I don't want to be a part of. So,
Yeah, yeah, I feel that. Well, what I tell people in general is not even to they get a text message that even if they suspect that it's a scam, not to reply. Even if they feel like they just want to reply and say it's a wrong number or who is this, I tell them it's not even worth replying because now you're at the very least now you're telling them it's an active number and to target you more, right?
absolutely.
So,
Or if you never answer that, but they know it's an active number because you've responded, that's worth money to them because
mhm.
then they can go out and sell your phone number, and that's worth money to them. So it's yet another revenue stream from the scammer business to sell to another scammer.
Yep. And the same thing,
So
yeah, and the same thing applies to phone calls too. They call up and then I don't know about you, but I get phone calls all the time. It's from numbers I don't recognize, right? And if I answer a lot of times, as soon as I say hello, they hang up. Well,
yes,
now I know that somebody just found out my number was active and they're probably going to be selling it to somebody for a scam list now. So it's the same type of,
absolutely,
yeah, any indication that your number is active, that you picked up or that you replied to a text, you're just making yourself more of a target.
absolutely,
Yeah. And
absolutely,
I don't want to just jump over what you said before about those scam compounds too. I think that's important for people to know how serious of a crime syndicate and organization that a lot of these scammers are dealing with, right? That we're being
absolutely.
targeted by worldwide international organized crime that's making billions of dollars and they're trafficking humans. Like there's some dark things going on in this underworld of scamming. It's not just somebody sitting in their basement trying to trick random people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Now, there are random one-off, two-off
Mhm.
actors, very small operations. And I have a tendency to look at Chinese organized crime and things like that in the huge scam compounds in Cambodia. Some huge scam compounds I've had a piece of shutting down in India. Um, a very small piece, but um, I have a tendency to focus on those in my own head, but we have our local homegrown people too. I mean, a local police department here in my area just stopped a scammer, and the scammer was from the same community. So,
Mhm.
you know, our local knuckleheads are taking notes as well. And anytime anybody thinks they can make an easy buck, there's somebody out there that's going to take advantage of it.
Yep, for sure. So, let's talk about some of these scams in a little more detail that we were mentioning, right? We mentioned the arrest warrant scams earlier, and just to be clear to the audience, First of all, that's a very common scam right now. I've seen it increase a lot over the past year or two. Lots more reports coming about these arrest warrant scams, right? And just to let the audience know who's watching, in case they're not familiar with it, what that is the scammer impersonates a law enforcement officer, usually a local sheriff's department. They'll call you on the phone, and your caller ID will show the local sheriff's department in most cases, even though it's a scammer halfway around the world, usually. And they'll say that there's going to be a warrant issued for your arrest because you missed jury duty or failed to show the court for something along those lines. And then they say you have to pay now, right? You have to pay now. They won't let you get off the phone usually. They'll keep you on the phone while you're driving to the bank or driving to a Bitcoin ATMs, which we'll talk about in a little bit too. But um, but it's a big problem right now. So many reports about these arrest warrant scams, and it's important for people to be aware of them because it's a great example of how they use fear, like you were saying, how they use fear to create this urgency, right? Where victims, you tell a victim, we're going to come kick in your door and arrest you. If you don't pay now, that could be a scary situation, right?
Absolutely. I've received those as a police officer.
Huh.
And of course, my response is a little smart aleck.
Mm.
I let them know just exactly I don't like police officers and you can just come get me. But try to catch me. But one amazing, I've investigated a lot of those particular scam cases. And what has been amazing to me is the majority of those that I've investigated, the perpetrators have actually come out of a very interesting place because
Where's
we know
that?
who the scammers are.
Where's that?
Inmates out of the Georgia prison system.
Wow.
And it is so prolific that in the law enforcement investigative world, we just commonly refer to that scam as the Georgia prison gang scam.
Wow. So they're actually in there in prison behind bars, but they're still making those calls
Yes,
and doing those scams.
and they are still perpetrating that. In fact, one of the inmates that's well known for these types of scams, when we reached out to Georgia Department of Corrections and interviewed this person, the previous day they confiscated 30 cell phones out of the inmate's cell just the previous day. So,
Hmm.
what was even more interesting about that is that when the officers went in to interview the inmate about these scams, they had to turn in their cell phones.
Hmm.
But the inmate had had 30 cell phones confiscated from his room or his cell in just the previous day. So that is a prolific, it's so prolific that we call it, do we just flat out call them? I can tell by the pattern of the money moving or the crypto moving that it's a Georgia prison gang scam. And
Wow.
that's what we just refer to it as, Georgia prison gang, Georgia
Yeah.
prison gang. So it's absolutely fascinating.
And the other thing about those arrest warrants too is that they'll provide the paperwork, this fake paperwork that makes it
Oh
seem
yeah.
like that they're going to
Well,
arrest you.
and if you're an inmate in a state prison system who has been through the system, you're
Mm.
probably pretty familiar with what at least the general format of what the paper would look like in your state. And
Hmm.
most states are similar. But yeah, so pause, verify, act. And I feel pretty confident after almost 38 years in law enforcement that if the police call you and tell you got a warrant, just hang up on them.
Hmm.
You'll know if they really got a warrant. Yeah, just hang up on them and call the local police department. Say,
Yeah.
hey, I got this call from Sergeant so and so, and they'll go, yeah, yeah,
And we
others.
mentioned pig butchering, which again, for the audience, if they're not aware of it, that's really it's an investment scam, and it is one of those long-term scams where they'll gain your trust over a week or two, trying to be your friend and buddy, and it's one of those
Sometimes months. Yeah,
sometimes months, right? And it's one of those scams where it could start from just a random text message, like you talked about earlier, about hey, want to go golfing, and the victim replies back, "Who is this?" And the scammer goes, "Oh, I had the wrong number, but you seem nice. Let's be friends," right? And then they
yeah,
build that trust. Okay? And then the messages on social media that we are talking about, they'll just approach down there. You seem nice. Let's be friends. And it evolves over weeks or months, usually to a pig butchering scam where they just nonchalantly drop, oh, my aunt or my uncle does investing. We're making a lot of money. Why don't you join our investment group? Right?
yeah. And I like the trick in that they do that's well thought out because then your scam aware person might say, well, I'm not giving you any money.
Hmm.
I'm scam aware. I'm not going to give you any money. Oh, no, 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 no. You don't give me money. Here's the investment platform I use and
Hmm.
check it out for yourself. I worked with a victim that had been hooked by that and had invested in that so heavily for so long that he started an LLC in his community to teach others in his community how to invest. And then when he went to withdraw some money for to help start that company, he couldn't get his money. So he had been investing in that particular scam for years. It's
And
showing amazing results. You
yeah,
know,
right. And,
28%, 26%.
and it's all fake. That's what's kind of amazing about what these scammers are doing is the platforms that they give them to do this trading on. It's a website or app, but it's all fake. No matter what trades are being done, right? It's just showing returns of 10 times as much as the person deposits. And it's so realistic that it's hard for people not to believe. It's like, look, there's this app. I do video calls with them, and sometimes they'll even let you take out a little bit of money at the beginning too, from what I understand, just to kind of build that confidence up.
Yes, but very small amounts.
Right, because the goal is they're not just after $100 or even $1,000. Their goal with these pig butchering scams is they want to take everything you have, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. They would take the change out of the cushions under the cushions of your couch if they could. They want
Hmm.
everything. And they're just vicious. Absolutely vicious. And this poor guy, what do you tell a victim when they come to you and say, look, buddy, you've been scammed. It's not real. And now it's been so long, there's no possibility of me recovering your money. Um, what do you tell a victim? It's horrible, it's devastating. And at that point, it's probably devastated people around them, like
Mm.
maybe buddies they've talked into this investment platform. And what's really bad, what really infuriates me is if you open up your Apple iPhone, if you open up your Android and go to the app section, you will find these fake apps posted right in the app stores with 4-star reviews. Why? Because they got over 10,000 people human trafficked in that scam compound to also post reviews.
Mm.
It's crazy. So, yeah, so I really think that the large corporations could probably do more to police themselves in that area.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I
And
mean,
that's
there's.
where we're seeing, and I'm jumping ahead, I think, but that's what we're seeing in the crypto kiosk industry is the crypto kiosk industry failed to regulate itself so bad for so long.
Mhm.
Now the restrictions are becoming so restrictive, there's no way that the business model could even continue to exist.
Yeah, they really did it to themselves by allowing the scammers to just run wild with those crypto machines. They didn't put any delays on it. They could have put 24-hour delay on transactions or something, but they just nope. They really took advantage of the criminals using those crypto machines.
Yeah,
Mm.
at 21 to 28% interest
Yeah, and
in
that's it.
transaction fees
Mhm.
on purchase. It's like if I'm investing in Bitcoin, it's certainly not through a crypto ATM.
Yeah, and the good news about that is I think it's Tennessee outlawed them last month. I just read an article about now the police are going around and actually confirming that they're not hooked up anymore in the stores. I think Indiana was the other state that's fully banned them, and I'm sure other states are going to be following suit
Oh
soon.
yeah, and Bitcoin Depot has filed Chapter 11. So Bitcoin
Mm.
Depot, which was the largest Bitcoin kiosk company in the industry here in the U.S., is no longer exists.
Oh, I just thought of something. When they get rid of all those crypto machines, you might have to rename yourself. Can you still call yourself CryptoCop? You might have to think of something else. Have to call
I
yourself like
might have
Gold.
to.
You have to call yourself like Gold Bar Cop or something because the Gold
Yeah.
Bar couriers now and U.S. Courier Cop. There we go.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Nah, but they're still going to be using crypto. Even when the machines are out, they'll still find other ways to get be using
Oh,
crypto.
sure.
Even the ransomware viruses that we dealt a lot with businesses on the business end of things. Companies getting infected with ransomware where it encrypts your system, and then criminals want to get paid in Bitcoin. Um,
Yeah.
um,
And I get asked a lot, well, why do criminals want to use cryptocurrency?
mm,
And the answer is quite simply, it's the quickest and easiest way to move money transnationally instantly.
mm.
It's just fast. It's fast and
And,
easy. It's
and,
instant.
and practically impossible to reverse. Right? Once
Yes.
once it's sent. Yeah. Um,
So, you know, when I first came on the job, it was Western Union wire transfers.
Mhm.
They talk you into going to the Western Union office and sending, three, $400 to whoever they, whoever the scammer was. But, you know, crypto's, it's just evolved, and crypto's now the new vehicle.
And
So,
since we're talking about some of the payment methods too, that scammers prefer, it's actually one of one of the most important red flags I think to be aware of is these unusual forms of payment that scammers like to be paid with. Because a lot of times, being able to recognize that if you made it that far into the scam, it's your last chance really to stop that scam. Is
yes,
recognizing the unusual payment, which would be crypto, the gold bars, like we were saying,
gift
gift
cards
cards is
are still a
huge.
big deal.
Which one?
Gift cards are still a big deal.
Yeah, I think they're shifting. It feels like they're shifting over to gift cards even more
Well,
now.
as the crypto kiosks are getting more difficult to find, as not only states, but counties and municipalities enact legislation uh, on crypto kiosks, yeah, we're seeing just the scammers begin to exploit other avenues. So,
Yeah, and the
in
gift
fact,
card.
I've heard some snail mail stuff is actually coming back.
Oh
So,
yeah, yep, yeah. We've seen recent examples of the inheritance scam letters that they look like they're from a law office and say someone with the same last name of you as passed away and you're entitled to 10 million or 30 million inheritance. Right? We've
yeah,
seen the gift card scam when we've seen the secret survey or secret shopper scams where you get a letter in the mail that has a fake check. Or this guy has a fake check and it says you've been selected as a secret shopper. Deposit this check and then go purchase four gift cards, $500 each. It's a $2,000 scam, and that check's
yeah.
gonna bounce. Yeah. So there's still, I think you and I had a previous conversation. I think we actually mentioned it's like the scammers kind of going back to the old methods now because people are starting to get used to phone call scams, email scams.
Well, because they're good followers of ScamAware101 and
That's right.
USCryptoCop, and so they're scam aware. So when that Microsoft Office thing pops up on their computer, they know that's fake, and they're a little less suspicious of stuff that comes in the mail. So,
There we go. Yeah. So, one of the things you always emphasize a lot, you often emphasize that stopping scams takes teamwork and that working together can make a real difference. And one of the things that is great about your YouTube channel is you shared success stories where you're working with scam baiters and stopping scams in progress. And it's fascinating watching that. And maybe you could tell us a little bit about the work you're doing and the collaborations with those scam baiters to stop scams.
well, just recently in the past few weeks, um, I've had incredible success with two separate incidents stopping a scam in real time. And none of these scams, now I'm a state police officer, so the state of Kansas is a huge state. It's like, several 100,000 miles. And so these scams have not been close to me. So I've also had to reach out to the local police departments to help facilitate this because I just couldn't physically get there in time. And one of them was in a community, a rural community in Kansas, where a scam baiter in Europe was watching an Indian call scam center in India and watching that Indian call scam center scam in real time a person in this small rural Kansas community. And the scam baiter called me up and said, "Hey, I've got one happening right now." And I said, "Oh my gosh." So I reached out to the local police department, explained who I am. And of course, they know they can always call my office and verify who I am, and said, "Hey, we've got a scammer that is scamming an individual. Is this address a legitimate address in your community?" And of course, they verified it was. I said, "Well, I have a person that is telling me, I have a confidential informant that's telling me that this person is being scammed in real time. Can you send a marked patrol officer, a marked unit, and a uniformed patrol officer to go over there and just check on this individual?" And they did. They went to his home and he wasn't there.
Mm.
So then the supervisor, the patrol supervisor of that community said, "Wow." So he did a little good police work himself and got a description of the man's vehicle and found him in the bank parking lot waiting for the bank to open so he could get more money for the scammer. So that was fantastic. So it just so happened the timing was just right that the bank then opened while the police supervisor is talking to the victim.
Mm.
And so I'm still on the phone with the police supervisor. I said, "Hey, you guys probably need to go into the bank and ask for the fraud department there and explain to them what's going on and say, hey, stop any transactions that have just transpired." And they did, and were able to stop that. And then the scam baiter called me back and said, hey, you need to let that victim know that the scammer is still in their computer, still has access to their computer. And when they power it back on, the scammer will be able to access everything on their computer. So, and the victim, bless his heart, the victim said, I didn't like that computer anyway. I was about to get rid of it. So he threw it in the dumpster. So, uh, yeah, it was a great success story. And we had another one just like that last week, I believe it was, maybe the week before. But yeah, it's been incredible. One thing I find frustrating, and I try to explain to police departments or to law enforcement when I teach about this, is law enforcement agencies are hesitant to take information like that from scam baiters. Well, we've been taking information from anonymous sources for decades with the TIPS hotline. I think every agency in the United States participates in the TIPS hotline. And 474 TIPS, you can remain anonymous, maybe even get, I don't know, 100, $200, right? If it leads to prosecution. And uh, so we've been doing that for decades, but because it's a scam baiter, they seem hesitant. And I'm trying to walk them through that process. So we've had a great deal of, or I've had a great deal of success with that here in our area. So
Yeah, and to anybody watching right now, definitely check out US Crypto Cop's YouTube channel to see some of those videos. They're really great. And shout out to DVR over there on the videos. He's got
absolutely.
some good stuff too.
I have to give the shout out to another scam baiter who primarily works email related scams. So he doesn't have a lot of social media presence. But Do Blue times three. It's with the assistance of Do Blue times three that we've been able to shut down over 300 scammer related bank accounts this year
Amazing.
and identified four money mules in my area. So that we were able to reach out and actually physically visit with. So over 300 bank accounts that were linked to criminal activity. And you don't have to wear a badge to protect people. Sometimes just sharing the right information at the right time is exactly what you need to do to save a friend of yours or a loved one from being scammed. So there you go.
Yeah, for sure.
A
I always say
little
it takes,
preaching.
yeah, it takes a village. I like to say, it takes a
Yeah,
village, and
absolutely.
even the folks out there that think they're too smart to get scammed. Well, first of all, that's what a scammer wants you to think. But you know what? Stay up to date anyway, and warn the community, warn your friends, warn your loved ones. It's important to spread the word about these scams because they're always evolving, always advancing, always thinking of new tricks to fool you.
Yes, they
Uh,
are.
and You know, uh, so the other thing we should probably mention is, so unfortunately, most scam victims, they never recover money that they've lost, right? And to make matters worse, many are targeted again by recovery scammers. So what
Okay.
should someone do immediately after realizing they've been scammed? And what are some things they should avoid doing?
Well, first, and I'll be a little self-serving here, but I'm going to direct them to USCryptoCop.com. And in the left-hand column, you will see a free victims checklist. And I'll walk you through step by step exactly what you need to do next if you think you've been the victim of a scam. Right at the top of that is actually first on that list is to stop talking to the scammer. The second on that list is to call your local police. Now, here's what I've heard a lot is that, well, my police won't do anything about it. You need to have that report number. Make a police report, whether you think the local police are going to do anything about it or not. You need that police department report number for the next step, which is go to the FBI's IC3 website and also report it there. Now, the police department detective that's handling your case should help you with that. But if they're not going to help you or you don't think they're going to help you, you could do it yourself and go to FBIIC3.gov, I believe it is, and go on there and fill out a report there. Because in the news, when you hear of these large scam compounds getting raided by the local police and the FBI, um, the best chance you have for actually getting your money recovered is when they make those huge busts, recovering millions of dollars, because your report will be in the system and they could see it's associated with that scam. That's a good opportunity. Um, we have an opportunity to possibly freeze and recover your money that's been scammed away, if you're quick on getting it to us. But sometimes you don't have control of that being quick because the holdup may be at the local police department that's taking a while for the police report to get approved by the shift supervisor, then sent to the detectives, which got 500 other cases they're working on. And so that may be part of the delay there too. But speed is of essence. But go to USCryptoCop and download that free victims checklist. Tell somebody, report it. I know a lot of people are embarrassed. And don't be embarrassed. You're not stupid. You're the victim of a crime.
Right. Yep. We mentioned earlier,
Simple.
anybody can get scammed. Right. So,
Absolutely.
yep.
My
And
doctor friend, I mean,
mhm.
me, I could be scammed easily.
And like you
So,
said, time is of the essence too. When you do get scammed, reach out immediately. Reach out to local police station.
yes,
Your report. If it involved the bank, reach out to the bank. You want to reach out through official, channels as much as you can. Uh,
absolutely.
but
Because
but
ultimately, the only people that can recover your stolen funds is law enforcement and the court system.
not these
So
recovery
there's a lot
services.
of people out there that will try to tell you they can recover it for you for a fee,
Mhm.
but the only people that can truly recover your money is law enforcement and the court systems.
Right. And I just want to stress that again, the companies that claim they could recover it for you, suddenly you'll be getting contacted after you've been scammed with by all these companies saying we could help you recover it. Those are actually a follow-up scam. They're a recovery scam, it's
Yeah,
known as. And they're just going to try to scam you out of even more money, unfortunately. When people get scammed, they get added to a suckers list, unfortunately, is what it's called. And now you're going to be targeted even more by scammers because they figure you're an easy target. So all these follow-ups that you get from people out of nowhere, and I've seen people comment on Facebook, for example. They say, I got scammed yesterday out of this much money. And then there'll be 25 comments from all these random profiles saying, we could recover, contact us, we could recover. And
yeah.
they're scams.
I
So
have to
be aware of that.
delete those off the articles that I've written and things like that off social media because yeah, they use that as a vehicle to try to scam you. So I'm constantly deleting those and blocking them. But
Mm.
yeah, it's and sometimes I've seen where it's actually the same scammer
Yeah, right. Yeah.
has just now
Hmm.
moved into, okay, well, let's see if we can hook them again. So they were good for, 2,500 bucks. Let's hook them again for another 25.
Yeah.
So yeah, these people are evil, absolutely evil.
Yeah. Again, they want to take everything, retirement, any inheritance they have for your kids' college funds. They don't care. They want to take it all. Even
Yeah,
in the case of the pig butchering scams we were talking about earlier, even after a person's fully invested, doesn't have any money left, and now they're like, all right, let me get my profits out. The scammer will say, oh, well, you can take it out, but first you need to sell a car or take out a loan and you
second
got to pay
mortgage on your
fees. You have to
home.
pay fees
Yeah,
on it. But that's like an exit scam as well. They're never going to pay you back. But now they have
right.
everything that you own, and now they're trying to get even more from you. Go take out a loan, and then we'll give it to you. It's wild.
They are evil,
Yeah,
absolutely evil.
yeah,
So thank you so much for what you're doing with ScamAware. I mean, just with the platform, and you've been kind of an inspiration for what I'm trying to do on my end is just get that information out there and make people aware that,
mm,
hey, the old Nigerian prince scam still exists, but it's just popping up in your email and on your computer, not just coming in your mailbox anymore.
yeah. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate it. And I mean, we're both on the same page, right? Knowledge is your best defense against scams. So you and I both were just trying to pump out all the different
Yeah,
videos and warnings, red flags and examples, and just trying to make the public aware and stop these scams before they happen. Right?
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's a team effort. We talked about it just a few minutes ago. It's truly a team effort. It takes people in the IT industry. It takes people banking fraud investigators. That's of course who I team up with when we're flagging and shutting down these bank accounts. Um, that's all with bank fraud investigators and banking different banks. Um, you know, just people out there getting that information out. And it's just imperative. And that we're hitting all the platforms. So we're hitting all the vulnerable age demographics. But I happen to be lucky enough that I work on several task force and coalitions uh, that I now work with investigators all over the globe.
Mm.
So investigators in Thailand, investigators in Nigeria, investigators in uh, all over the United States and Canada and all over the EU, and it's been amazing. So we can really reach out and touch some stuff um, very rapidly. Uh,
And I think that brings up a very important point that really these scams, they're a global issue, right? They're a global problem. There's other countries that are being targeted with the exact same scams. And the reason why it's so hard to get some of these scammers is because they're located in these other countries. So collaborating with contacts and law enforcement in different countries, knowing those people like you do, that really makes a huge difference. And I think the industry as a whole should really open their mind more to collaborating with enforcement agencies and contacts in other countries because that's where the money ends up in other countries. So
Absolutely.
we got to work together, and it'll help the world. So
Yeah, absolutely.
um,
I mean, all the other countries are getting j hit just as hard with these scammers, of course, in different formats,
mhm.
but the same scams all over the world.
and
So, yeah, it's remarkable. And not only is it these dubious organized crime organizations, but it's also hostile foreign governments
yes, that's what I was going to
uh,
say next.
trying
Yeah.
to avoid sanctions, North Korea, China,
Hmm.
Russia, a lot of just like organized crime in the United States decades ago, it's yet just another revenue stream to help avoid sanctions and hide money.
Yeah, it's really a
Iran,
national threat.
Iran's a big one now.
Mm. Yeah, and
So
it's really a national threat, right? I mean, it's kind of like we're
absolutely,
at
it is a
war.
national security threat.
Hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, it's just holy smokes. It's and I've always operated as well in my law enforcement career that if you handle the misdemeanors, the small stuff, then the felonies take care of themselves.
Mm.
So let's take care of this at the low level. Get it nipped in the bud right there. Then we won't have the big problems. But it has now already rapidly become a big problem, and it only seems to be getting worse.
Yeah. So, let's on the agenda here. I actually said maybe we'll do a quick lightning round. We can have some fun. I just listed some quick questions off here, and maybe you could tell me some of your thoughts on what you think will help give some advice to the public here.
All right.
So what's the biggest red flag that you think the public should be aware of to help spot some scams?
Urgency.
Mm.
Anything that creates urgency, I would immediately say stop.
Yeah,
So urgency seems to be the biggest weapon, at least in the scams that I've dealt with. They've created a sense of urgency.
right. Any legit organization should be perfectly fine with you saying, "Let me confirm a few things, and I'll get back to you." Right? They shouldn't be trying to keep you on the phone and saying, "You got to do this now." Really, any legit organization should have no problem with
Don't
you.
talk to them. Don't
Hmm.
talk to them. Well, it's a cop standing next. Don't talk to them. Talk to me. Yeah,
Hmm.
no. Hello. Yeah.
Yep.
We call that a clue. Yeah, it's
What's some common mistakes that victims make that they end up falling for these scams?
allowing them to be placed in a position where they're in a hurry, they're in a panic.
Mm.
Anytime somebody starts playing to your emotions, whether that be fear, panic, anything like that, I would put a break on it. If my grandkids called me up and said, Grandpa, I'm in jail or I'm in trouble, I need your help, I'd say, oh my gosh, baby, let me call you right back.
Mhm.
And I actually did a video on that. Let me call you back.
Yeah.
And yeah, just speed and fear is really their best. Other than the pig butchering, those
Mhm.
go on for long periods of time. The investment scams and the pig butchering, but anybody who creates an urgency, a panic, let
Mhm.
me call you back.
Yep,
So
for sure, for sure. I'd say the other one, as far as the pig butchering scams go and things like that, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. That's probably the other
yes,
mistake that I'd say
and
those 2. Mhm.
now if I'm in an investment opportunity, or I think I've found a fantastic investment opportunity, and this may just be me. Um, you know, I'm not the greatest investor in the whole wide world, and I'm probably going to reach out and ask some people I know,
Mhm.
but I'm certainly not going to rush to make a decision right now. Um, so I've already paused, verified, and acted, but I'm also going to ask some people. So if you think you've been caught in that situation, just ask somebody else. Ask your spouse, ask your girlfriend, your boyfriend. Um, stop and ask somebody, your brother, your sister, whoever it may be, a trusted friend.
Mm.
Just put the pause on there because the majority of the time, if you just put on the brakes and pause a little bit, the whole scam falls apart pretty quickly.
Mhm. Excellent. Yep. The next one here, biggest scam myth.
I'm too smart to get scammed.
That's a good one. There you go.
I am too
Hmm.
smart. I don't know why any idiot would fall for this. I'm
Hmm.
too smart to be scammed.
Famous
You
last
are a
words.
now you're a primary target to be scammed. You are right in exactly the position the scammer wants you to be in.
Mm. Yep, good one. So, one habit everyone should start today.
Skepticism,
Yes.
being skeptical, not to the point that you don't believe anything, but just be a bit less trusting. When somebody tells you of an excellent investment opportunity or you may be in trouble, and this is not somebody actually standing in front of you, be skeptical. Be
Mm.
skeptical. So add just maybe a little more skepticism to unique opportunities that pop up out of nowhere.
Mm. Yep. And we actually touched on that a lot during this conversation too, is they're gonna try to convince you. They'll know things about you, but you still have to be skeptical. Your caller ID might show the bank's phone number, but you still have to be skeptical. All right.
Absolutely.
You always,
And if you have a question, Americans as a whole tend to be pretty polite people
mhm.
and sometimes too polite. And you know what? If the bank calls up and says, you need to move your money immediately, this is a bank fraud department. You need to move your money immediately because your account's been compromised. You need to move it to a safe account. I need you to move now. If it's truly your bank, they won't mind if you say, let me call you back.
Mhm. And by the way, bank's never going to tell you to do that. An actual bank, they're never going to tell you
No,
just move your money and
not at
buy
all.
gift cards or move your money and buy that. No way.
Yeah, not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
And then the last one here, and we might have actually already covered, it might be a little redundant, but best advice for seniors or really anyone just to stay safe from scams.
I think probably the best advice is to, if you have somebody that's telling you you need to do something immediately, or is trying to add an element of secrecy to this,
Mm,
um, maybe they tell you you're helping in an investigation
mm,
and you can't tell anybody else about this because you're going to blow the investigation. You know what? Blow the investigation. Talk to
mm,
somebody about it. I will never contact, as a law enforcement officer, in almost 38 years of doing this, I would never tell you not to talk to anybody um, about something that we're trying to do secretly. You would know if you were helping the police because there's a whole lot of paperwork that goes involved in that. So, um, slow things down, be skeptical. If you have a question, ask a trusted friend. Um, because 99% of the time, if you just have that break, that scam's going to fall apart right in front of you.
There we go. I love it. That's something really good you're doing out there too, is you're training law enforcement and doing the conferences and teaching them what to be aware of because it's so important for law enforcement to stay up to date and current and understand how to deal with these types of things. We're dealing with people and criminals using the latest technology. We're up against tens of thousands of scammers and call centers and organized crime. So it's very important, especially for law enforcement, to stay up to date and understand what they're dealing with. So it's really good you're out there showing them how it's done.
Oh, well, thank you, brother. And I tell you, thank you for what you're doing because you not being in law enforcement, but still dedicating yourself to be out there and just out there trying to protect, educate, and protect the community. I mean, what you're doing is awesome. And thank you so much for being a brother in this fight, man. I really, really appreciate it. So
Excellent. I
there's not a
appreciate
lot of
that.
us out there.
Yeah. Yep. We're doing what we can.
Amen. Amen.
Well, hey, I think this was a great conversation. I'm looking forward to getting this video posted. We covered a lot in this video, and I hope it helps some of the viewers. Maybe they learned something or learned how to protect themselves a little bit more. Any closing words? Anything you want to promote? Definitely check out USCryptoCop.com, especially victims. Check out that victim checklist that you mentioned. It's very helpful and important, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Please stop by USCryptoCop.com. You can catch me on LinkedIn, Twitter or X, and YouTube. Stop by, check us out. If you have a problem, if you've been a scam victim, check out that victim's checklist. It's absolutely free. And if you have questions about that checklist, feel free to hit me up at uscryptocop@gmail.com. I'd be happy to answer any of your questions, especially regarding the victim's checklist. So yeah, reach out there. And you know what? You don't have to wear a badge to protect people. So if you see some of the videos that ScamAware101's putting out or US Crypto Cops got out there and you think that it may be of assistance to somebody you know or love, please go out there and share it with them because you don't have to wear a badge to protect people.
There you go. Well, thank you again so much for doing this interview. Hopefully, we'll have some more coming up in the future, and I look forward to seeing all the great work that you're doing coming up and stopping these scammers. Good stuff.
Oh, thank you so much, brother. I appreciate the opportunity to be on here with you and visit with you. You know, I always enjoy our conversations, so
Very
thank you
good.
so very much.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Yes, sir.
ScamAware 101, keep your eyes wide open. If the deal seems sweet, man, they're probably hoping. Wrong number text, they pretend they know you. Acting all friendly till they ask for a few. Grandparent scam, your grandson's in jail. Send the bail quick or his freedom might fail. Arrest warrant scam, police are on the line. Pay now or else they're taking your time. Fake order text, your package is delayed. You click that link, boom, your data's displayed.